Welcome to The Business That Pays with Adam Tolliver from Artisan Financial Strategies, where we mind the business that pays you. In this podcast, we empower successful families and business owners to make informed decisions about their finances through courageous conversations. Through his expertise as a practicing investment advisor representative with Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor, Adam teaches you how to create a wealth ecosystem by combining a practical technical framework with your personal, family, and community values. Join us for this journey where Adam normalizes sustainable wealth building and gives you the keys to make courageous, proactive financial decisions.
A coach can make a world of difference, and not only in sports. In life and business, a supportive, motivating voice can help you discover possibilities and empower you to reach your potential. Adam Tolliver's guest today is Todd Masters, a Focal Point certified business coach. Todd's ideal client is a motivated business owner, open to innovative solutions and strategies for long-term success, along with a work-life balance. This reminds me of the episode you did on life and turning points.
Yes, Patrice, thank you so much for that intro. We are thrilled to have Todd with us. I was able to connect with Todd not too long ago and learn a lot about his business. And we work with business owners and entrepreneurs quite a bit. And one of the things that we are always kind of stressing is the importance and the value of being able to back up from the day-to-day in the business and focus on long-term strategy, sort of working on the business and not just in the business, which can be difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs. So, Todd, we're excited to have you. I'd love to get a little bit on your background, how you got into coaching and why it's important to you. So great to have you.
Great to be here. And Adam, really appreciate the chance to speak, and really impressed with your business and how you run things. And that's why I think we connected and hit it off. My background, I started actually in the Air Force out of college. And then from a brief stint in the military, I spent the last 25 years in corporate American sales and marketing, up to helping startups, build their business, did a lot with different sales platforms, sales teams, building teams, training teams, helping companies, strive and do things. My family background is more in the small business arena. So when I decided to get out of corporate America, my heart was really in helping these small businesses, the mom and pop stores and Main Street, which I believe is the heart of America, help them to survive. 80% of small businesses that start fail within the first year, and then another 70% after the second year. So my goal as a small business growth coach, and what I do, is to really help businesses thrive and survive those first few years. But also what's really important in small business, those that have succeeded and been in business for 10, 20, 30 years, when they decide to exit, to protect that legacy that they've built and be able to carry that to the next generation, to have generational businesses. And that's really powerful. I became a coach because I really wanted to take what I've learned at that big macro level with $1 million budgets, shrink that down to the small size to help the small business owners have the same velocity, the same capacity, the same tools that we can have at that corporate level down to the small business level to help them succeed as well.
That is awesome. And yeah, what I love about your experience, and you might be being a little modest here, so there's a few things that I note about your background and your history. So if I'm not mistaken, you've got a background in engineering. Is that right?
Yeah, my core degree is electrical engineering with a focus on microwave and radar, which was good for the Air Force, and then a master's in business that I got afterwards as well.
And what I hear when I hear engineering, I hear Air Force and military, and then I hear MBA, I hear a lot of processed sort of focus in the way that you think and the way that you operate. And sometimes for business owners, now don't get me wrong, everyone's not the same, but a lot of business owners, especially in the early going, building your business, and we can talk about the sort of stages of business growth, but in the early going, it's kind of hustle, hustle, hustle. And the process may or may not come until a little bit later. So I'd love to get your perspective on what you see working with clients and just the importance of having sort of a process and framework around how you approach the growth of your business.
Yeah, that's great insight, Adam. And you're right. And that's very intuitive of you to pick that up. because I am very process oriented as an engineer and see things logically. I can walk into a business or talk to a business owner and just within a few minutes understand if they've, have a system in place, if their system's broken, especially with a strong sales and marketing background, the SOP or sales operating process, marketing strategies that follow a good path. I can walk into a business and see some major inefficiencies, which is good and bad, because once, I meet with some business owners and we talk about their process and how they do things, typically making a few minor adjustments or building a good process can result in 10, 20, 30% revenue increases just by looking at how business is operating. One thing that we teach kind of within a business life cycle is that oftentimes business owners will go through a growth stage where they get very excited and, like you said, put a lot of effort in the business up front. And it's just people hours. It's just effort. It's elbow grease. They get some discouraging times and they finally survive, and they get to a point in the business life cycle that we call a founder's trap. Is that now the founder finds themselves inundated with the day-to-day business and they haven't built systems, processes, tools, or things. And it's at that point that either they build that out and survive, or they're just going to get burned out and inundated with the work and go out of business again. So in my goal to help these businesses survive, that's kind of that year 1 to year 2, or sometimes up to the 5-year mark, is that it's really important now to build these systems and processes to make sure you can survive.
It is so interesting. You mentioned that founder's trap, and as a wealth manager and a focus in exit planning for business owners, a lot of what we talk about is how does a business owner start to sort of uncleave himself from the day-to-day operations, not because you don't enjoy doing it or you're not good at it, but because ultimately, if your business is going to grow in value, it can't be so dependent on you. And that comes from an operating standpoint and from a knowledge-based standpoint. A lot of business owners kind of live with the how-to of their business stuck in their head, and no one else in the company really knows how to operate and do those things. So sticking with our theme for the day, talking about working on the business and not in the business, when you're in that founder's trap and you're stuck in it, it can be very difficult to take the time or know when or how to take a step back and start to implement some of those processes. So talk to me about some of the results that you've been able to see when you can get a founder and owner of a small business to start to take those steps.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge topic, and your customer base and helping people build wealth and manage their wealth. I mean, systems and processes, it's, $1 million decisions or more. Part of what I do in succession coaching and exit planning and coaching for my clients, I've got a valuation on my website, a little survey tool. And when businesses go to get valuated to see what they're worth, and it's typically not always, very good news when they get that first valuation back. But one of the big criteria that valuators look at and potentially buyers for the business will to see 2 things that come to mind here in this conversation. One is how integrated is the business owner in the business, and the more involved they are, the lower value they're going to get for their company, right? Because you're not going to be able to sell your business if everything relies on you as the business owner to be there. And the second thing they look at is the systems and processes that are in place. Can they come in? Can a new buyer come in, or a new owner, or a family member if they want to hand it off to a family member? And is there a process and systems in place that they can take over that will maintain that cash flow on those pieces of it? And those are 2 huge things. And so when we talk about working, on your business, not in your business, which, by the way, comes from a great book that I'm sure a lot of people know, the E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, and that we've kind of incorporated at Focal Point, and as a common theme, is that at some point, if a business owner wants to sell their business or scale their business and really grow their business, they've got to be pulled out of that day to day and be looking at it from a business owner's perspective, have the vision of the company, run the strategy and run what they want to do. But now these systems, processes, and other things within the business become very important. I've got some numbers to share at some point, but I'll let you respond to that.
Sure. Yeah. And that's great insight. And It's funny because I talk to business owners about exit planning, and sometimes I think the perception of exit planning can be a bit daunting for people who haven't given it a ton of thought, because they're in the business, they're day to day, and a lot of who they are, what they do every day is wrapped up in the business. So they don't really want to talk about exit, but really the things that we're talking about are also the things that make it easier for you to run your business, makes your business more profitable, more enjoyable. But also when you think about going to raise capital, for instance, if you're just looking for, a line of credit from the bank, or if you're looking for outside investors, anything to kind of grow and scale your business, a lot of these are the same gates that you have to walk through in order to make your business valuable to be sold to a third party, or to set a next generation up for success to be able to continue to run the business. So yeah, I would love to hear, some practical examples, or if you've got sort of a case study of a business that you've worked with where just coming in and making some of these practical changes and being able to pull the business owner out to get a sort of 30,000 foot view, how that's impacted the bottom line, and then also the enterprise value for them.
Yeah. So I've got actually 3 clients I'm working with that are in this exit stage, if you will. And I always recommend, at minimum, it's a 3-year process, 5 years. And in one case, they're looking at 1 year, right? Yep. Because there's a lot involved. And you'll hear a lot of M&A and the equity managers of the businesses say that, everybody thinks their baby's pretty, because when they go to get evaluated, they think that it's worth, $5 million, and it comes back valuated at 3. And it's like, it causes some very, emotional drama for sure. Mm-hmm. But if we can do these 5 things over the course of the next 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, we can get up to that 5 million range. But I'll talk about it in stages. Maybe stage 1, not even related to, valuation and exit strategy, but just to improve the business owner's lifestyle with regards to the time and stress that they put into a business. Once you convince them that they don't have to have their hands in everything, that maybe we can look at all the tasks and activities that you do. Can we hire somebody? Can we outsource that? Can we bring in a tool to automate that? What can we pull off your plate that, as a business owner, you have no business actually doing or shouldn't be doing? And let's pull your elevation up a status. And let's set a goal, maybe to take a Friday off once in a while, or to take a weekend off and spend with your friends and family, and actually bring some quality of life back to you. And that's really a priceless, number you can't put on when you can allow a business owner now to enjoy actually having a business. I mean, it is a transition to rip the reins out of their hands. And it does take some good coaching for some business owners to say, all right, so let's bring on a person. Let's go through and set up the expectations, the job category, job description, and what you want out of them, and some milestones to ensure that they're doing it the way that you'd want them to do it, and then coach them on that process. A lot of business owners that haven't hired people or aren't very good with delegating or handing things out have so much control that they don't do a good job communicating to somebody what their expectations are. So that's one thing. The case study then, within valuation, in a lot of industries I work with, especially in home services, when they go to sell a business, it's usually from a 9x. There are a couple ways to look at valuating a business. Some is an EBITDA multiplier. The easiest one is net revenue or gross revenue multipliers, where you can take your business and take your gross revenue and just multiply that by a factor to see what your business might be valuated at. On the low end, it's usually a 0.9x, meaning your annual sales. If you sold your business, you get 90% of that, because things are way not ready to be sold. And at the high end, typically in home services like electricians or plumbers or HVAC or those kinds of things, taking out all the liquidity of assets, 2.5x is kind of on the high end of what I've seen. So if a business makes $1 million a year in total revenues, if they're not ready, they would sell it for $900,000. That's what their business is worth. On the high end, they'd be looking at $2.5 million or more to sell it. So there is a lot of things. Most of my clients come in the door kind of in the middle with where they're evaluated at 1x to 1.25x. And so we look at your grading. And again, there's a little calculator on my webpage, or there's a lot of much better calculators on other web pages that you can do. But it doesn't take a lot of effort to go from like a 1.25x multiplier in revenue to a 2x. Again, the biggest criteria though is to pull that business owner out of the equation, right? That the business does not rely on that business owner is going to make a huge impact on their valuation score. And that's $1 million decision right there to start pulling yourself out. And I've got several clients in that position where for them, it's closer to a $3 or a $5 million increase in what their business would be worth to work on those systems, those processes, the training up of other individuals within the business, and slowly pulling that business owner out. And in 2 years, they can earn an additional $3 million when they sell their business or put it up for sale. And that is a year or two well spent with coaching and improvements in the business that may cost $100,000 or $200,000 altogether, depending on what we need to build, to earn $3 million on that bag. And that's a great ROI.
Absolutely a great ROI. And when you talk through kind of what it takes to get there, and you start to talk about pulling the business owner out of the day-to-day operations of the business, have you run into situations where you start working with someone and by the time you get through, they have exit on their mind, but then you go through the process, you start to pull them out of the day-to-day, revenues start to increase? Do you run into people who sometimes say, actually, I might stick around and continue to run this business the way it's going if it's going to be like this?
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That absolutely happens a lot, because it's funny, there's this anxiety involved with being pulled out of the business, or I can't imagine my business surviving if I don't do X, Y, or Z. And then once they start to delegate X and Y, and they only have to do Z now, they start to enjoy it again, right? That it reminds them of why I got in business in the first place. And they start to see their business thrive, and they're like, I kind of want to, ride this ship out a little bit longer. And that does happen. And you know what else happens is that they saw now that the systems are in place and that it can kind of turn into a semi-absentee business model for them. And some of them decide, I can start another business. And I don't recommend it, but sometimes I've got one client that I've worked with who did that, where they now were able to step away more from that business, and it actually ran really good. And they said, I've always wanted to do this and start another business. And another business owner is considering starting a charity that they can now slowly kind of get off of their business, and then they can spend more time in their retirement with the money that they've earned from selling their business and protecting their legacy, to now focus on a nonprofit or some charities in their retirement, which I think is a brilliant idea.
And that brings another great point. In our conversations, you've talked about the importance of work-life balance. And when we're working with people who are getting ready for an exit, eyeing an exit, a lot of the work that we want to do is make sure that they've got a clear vision and understanding of what life is going to be like post-exit, because the amount of mental and emotional energy that it takes to start a business, build a business, run a business, that responsibility, that identity can really start to kind of solidify who people are and believe they have to be. And then if they don't have that business anymore, it can get kind of scary, kind of lonely. So talk to me about work-life balance and why that's an important part of your coaching, because a lot of times when people hear business coach, they don't necessarily think in those terms. And I know within the Focal Point system, that's something that's been stressed. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm really glad you brought that up. Yeah, and Focal Point, for those that don't know, was kind of founded by Brian Tracy and Cam Frazier many years ago, 14, 15 years ago, and since has brought on other coaches and best practices, and continues to modernize our sales training and marketing training to stay at the best practices. And it's called Focal Point because focus and clarity are really important to have strong businesses and families. But our focus, and what you mentioned, one of our modules or things that we go through is an exercise we call diamond mapping, where we look at not just your business success, but we ask you to kind of rate yourself and do some self-analysis on your family strength, of how much time you spend with your family, on your mental and spiritual health, and on your physical health. Only one of the quadrants that we really look at is your financial and business success. to really be successful or fulfilled as humans does go around to friends and family, goes around to your actual physical well-being, and then your mental and spiritual well-being. And if you're out of balance in any one of those four areas and spending an inordinate amount of time in one area, everything's going to suffer. And so for focus and clarity and balance, we want our business owners to really, have a complete and healthy lifestyle all around so they can find, maximum success in their business and financial environment. Just like as you're coaching and guiding your clients in their wealth strategy, they've got to be able to, probably enjoy some of that wealth as well and build the lifestyle that they want so that they can have this whole encompassing program that does that. And so we definitely, as a coach, try to bring on partners like yourself to build that wealth plan for our business owners so they can have the lifestyle that they need, but also be able to spend time with their friends, their family, and take care of themselves.
It's absolutely critical. And I think it's an invaluable part of what you do. It's a running theme here on the podcast. And we talk about all the time, the importance of understanding as a wealth manager, we may be talking about money, but really the money's just a tool, right? And ultimately what we're looking to do is help you build the type of life, support the type of life that you want. And that means focusing on the people that are important in your life a lot of the time as well. And I know for you, a lot of your businesses tend to be, closely held family type of businesses. So if there's not balance in those situations, it can get pretty hairy. And it can be very difficult to navigate as a family business, especially.
It is. So
you mentioned home services. Is there any particular sort of industry that you tend to focus on most or see the most value in your relationships, or that you prefer to work with, or are there others that you also work with?
I haven't niched out specifically to home services. My grandfather started a business, electrical wholesale company in Kansas City way back when, that my family's run, and my uncles and cousins still run that business, Bernie Wholesale Electric in Kansas City. So I really, just from my family history, I love helping out the plumbers, HVAC, electricians, and handymen. But I haven't niched out. I've also helped out some IT companies. I come from a strong SaaS, software, IT, communications background as well. And happy to help those companies out too, that are more technical with my actual degree. But from my personal experience, I love the hands-on type of work. But really, the companies I like working with the most are family-owned businesses. And whatever industry they may be in, that family-owned business, that's my family history, is watching my grandfather and all of us kids, stocking shelves when we were young as our first jobs. And knowing the dynamics that happen in family businesses that aren't always great, the transition when family members die and the impact that has on the business to make sure that legal things are set up, which they're often not. And I've seen that in several businesses. And then the legacy, protecting that family legacy to the next generations is important. And it takes a team. It takes a team of wealth advisors, of lawyers, of valuators. I've got a good graphic on my website that shows the team that you need to have in place to build a roundtable of advisors that small businesses need to be engaged with, especially as they start looking at that transition, to do that, because it does take some pretty intentional planning and having a good team in place to be able to carry that through. But really, yes. Small businesses and family-owned businesses is who I love working with the most.
Absolutely. Well, we are grateful, and I definitely think we could keep this conversation going for quite a while.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to hear from you if there's one major takeaway that you want to share with our listeners and the business owners that you work with. What's kind of that golden nugget that you want to punch?
Yeah, I would say for business owners, the practical tool and lesson is to look and map out all your activities in a week time frame, and to go through and prioritize and ask yourself, is what I'm doing right now adding significant value to my business, or could somebody else be doing this for me? And try to carve out 25, 30, 40% of what you're currently doing, and decide in your mind and in your heart to not do that anymore, and find somebody else that can do that. And ask yourself, what really should I be doing that brings the maximum value to my business? And then start doing those things. So a lot of it comes down to priorities and looking at what you do and what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing and what you can delete immediately from your schedule to free up your time. And just start from there. Just start from that one exercise, and go from that part. And if you need a coach to help you come in and do that, obviously you can contact me. toddmasters.coach is a website you can get to. Be happy to have a conversation and give you some exercises on how to prioritize your schedule and your lifestyle, and then look at a business and how we can optimize it for you.
That is fantastic advice. And I definitely hope that people will take you up on that, because it will make a big difference. So it's toddmasters.coach where they can reach you.
That works.
Awesome. Well, Todd, thank you again so much. I look forward to speaking with you again in the future.
Great. We'll talk soon.
Gentlemen, that was a very thought-filled discussion. Thank you so much. Now, Adam, we know how to reach Todd. How can listeners reach you?
You can reach me at workingwithadam.com.
Very simple. There you go. A coach does make a difference, folks. You heard it here. So find yours and follow this podcast for new shows. Share with others. Let Adam know what you're thinking, too. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to Business That Pays. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of the Artisan Financial Strategies or Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial professional provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment strategies.
Adam Tolliver, registered representative offering securities through NY Life Securities, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a licensed insurance agency. 1125 Cambridge Square, Suite C, Alpharetta, Georgia, 30009, 404-210-9311. Financial advisor offering investment advisory services through Eagle Strategies, LLC, a registered investment advisor. NY Life Securities, LLC, and Eagle Strategies, LLC are New York life companies. Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC is not owned or operated by NY Life Securities, LLC, or its affiliates. Neither Artisan Financial Strategies, LLC, nor its advisors provide tax, legal, or accounting advice.